What's going on, my fellow Kino Lords? Y'all already know that Beau is Afraid is my favorite film of the year so far, and is also my favorite Ari Aster film. Now, even for me, that's quite a scorching hot take because I'm in love with both Midsommar and Hereditary. But Beau is Afraid delivered one of the most unique, horrific, hilarious, and bizarre pieces of contemporary cinema that I've ever seen. And I found it to just be so entertaining, compelling, and thought-provoking throughout the entirety of its 3-hour runtime. But there is one scene in particular that I found to be so uniquely mesmerizing that I had to talk more in depth about it. I'm talking about the stage play storyboard sequence we get about halfway through the film. Now, I know that this should be obvious, but there will be spoiler talk in this video in regards to specific details about the film, so if you haven't seen the film yet, I'd highly recommend doing that before watching this video. Also, if you end up enjoying this video, please don't forget to give it that thumbs up, and consider joining my Discord server for $5 a month on Patreon, where we watch and discuss movies every week. So after experiencing this surreal stage play sequence for the first time, the first thing that I really appreciated so much about it is that it had me entranced from beginning to end. Everything from the vibrant production design, the stop motion work, the cinematography, the pace, and the semi-robotic voiceover narration created such a hypnotic and haunting presentation that kept me in a sustained trance-like state throughout the sequence. And also, a really cool fact about the production design and the stop motion work is that Joaquin Cosina and Cristobal Leon, the duo team behind the Spanish animated horror film called The Wolf House, collaborated with Ari Aster in developing the visionary dreamlike style and look that we see in this sequence. Now, there's a decent chance that a lot of y'all watching this video have neither heard or ever seen The Wolf House, but I implore you to please check it out as soon as you can. It's the most artful and unsettling animated horror film that I've ever seen, and the creative labor that it took to pull it off was astronomical. I also have a spoiler-free review for it as well if you're not convinced. But anyway, yeah, overall what I loved so much about the scene on the surface was just how mesmerizing the entire thing is. But at the same time, it's also a bit of a thinker. It left many wondering what place it had in the film in relationship to the story, characters, and themes. And for me, that's certainly by design. It wants to leave the viewer scratching their heads a bit perplexed on its purpose and meaning. But really the entire film serves as one giant head scratcher. But that's kind of why I'm here. I need to tell everyone my interpretation of the sequence and get it off my chest, so that way others can tell me why I'm wrong and give me their objectively correct take on it. So getting into the scene, it commences after Beau escapes the fuck around gang and stumbles upon a pop-up stage play in the woods. As the play begins, Beau begins to show a heavy yet subtle emotional reaction to the play because he heavily relates to the material about grieving over the death of your parents. The character of the stage play states that he must make a decision whether to stay in his current state of comfortability or take a chance and venture on into new territory. We see that the character of the play is chained up. He takes an axe and breaks the chains, freeing himself. And as the camera pans up, we see that it is now Beau who has taken the place of the main character of the play. This entire prologue is imperative in regards to understanding the foundation of my interpretation. For me, it's a metaphorical embodiment of Beau's desire to let go of everything that has held him back his whole life. His guilt, his anxiety, his indecisiveness, his lack of confidence, and his overall fear of the world around him. All of these negative qualities about him are represented in these chains. Once he breaks the chains, he projects his image onto the main character and fantasizes a whole new life without his flaws. So what we see in this surrealist storyboard stage play sequence is what Beau views to be his own alternative fantasy life if he were able to free himself from the baggage brought onto him by the abuse that he experienced growing up with his mother that has prevented him from living a life worth living, suffering, and dying for. This is why during his fantasy sequence there is an odd emphasis and specific wordings on some things, such as moments like,
"You will know the pleasure of tasting fruit and bread and wine that is yours because you have earned it."
To me, this is significant because Beau has more than likely never sustained himself on his own. I don't know this for sure, but it is revealed to us in the third act that his mother is the CEO of a gigantic corporation. If this is the case, there's a good chance he's always lived off of his mother's bank account, which has always kept him attached to her whether he likes it or not. Again, it is a bit speculative, but we never see him work or anyone around him ever mention him having a job in general. But moving on to a different example, there are also other moments like this one.
She become pregnant because you have sex with her.
And while it is a humorous moment, it actually does have thematic significance. Beau's mother has brainwashed him to believe that having sex will literally kill him because of a genetic disorder passed down to him from his father. So for Beau, it's imperative for him to emphasize on the fact that he had sex with her because it's a crucial part of his fantasy life. Now I know that some may be asking how this could be a fantasy when it eventually turns dark and Beau experiences suffering and the almost permanent separation between him and his family. Well, to me, that's because suffering and turmoil are an essential part of living a fulfilling life. If you haven't experienced the worst of life, you probably haven't experienced the best of it either. Overcoming something so insufferable and terrible can be the most rewarding feeling a human being can experience. Which is why, in an extremely meta mindfuck of a moment, the old fantasy Beau comes full circle back to the stage play, where an actress is reading out the final moments of his life where he reconnects with his long-lost sons. It's the final, ultimate, cyclical feeling of redemption, achievement, and clarity that one can attain before death. It fully completes Beau's alternative fantasy life. He experiences self-sustainability, sexuality, romance, partnership, fatherhood, loss, grief, survival, near-death experiences, and lastly, restoration and inner redemption by discovering and reuniting with his long-lost sons, giving him an ultimate, satisfyingly spiritual experience. But Beau's fantasy begins to fall apart when his children ask about the rest of their family, their mother, grandmother, and grandfather. Beau's logical and rooted to reality mindset begins to slip through the cracks as he recalls a traumatic memory of when he was a little boy and his mother tells him the story of his father dying as he finished inside her. This is the moment I mentioned earlier where he was brainwashed as a child into thinking that he would also die if he had sex with anyone. He admits to his children that he's never had sex with anybody before, and his kids obviously ask how that's even possible. Beau, being stunned what to even say, snaps out of it and is back in reality as we see the actual stage play still in progress. But another huge question about this sequence is why a stage play? Why did Ari Aster choose the constructed theatrics of the stage play to present Beau's alternative fantasy life? Personally, I think it's directly related to the film's theme of determinism, which is the philosophical idea that one's life is already predetermined to play out in certain ways. This is a subject that Ari Aster has explored in all of his films so far, especially in Hereditary. And a piece of evidence to contribute to this interpretation is that one scene before this where he's still staying at the fuck-around gang's house. The mother secretly tells him to turn on the TV, and what he finds is a live feed of a camera pointed right at him. But he can also both rewind and, most importantly, fast forward this feed. When he fast forwards it, he gets quick glimpses of everything that happens beyond this point. Further proving that this film is including that concept of determinism, where everything that happened to Beau for the remainder of the film was going to happen no matter what. So a stage play, symbolically but also quite literally, represents the determinist philosophy because of how every story that occurs on that stage is pre-written. So to have Beau's alternative fantasy life be represented in a constructed stage play is almost like a twisted joke on Beau. It's showing that even in his fantasy world where he's finally able to live a fulfilling life by freeing himself from all of his flaws and inflicted childhood trauma, even in that life, he's still confined by the determinist reality of free will being thrown out the window and his entire life being pre-written for him. This is the biggest reason why I find the scene to be beautifully depressing, because it's both aesthetically beautiful and characteristically beautiful for Beau, but knowing that the most spiritual and enlightening moment of his life is not only just a fantasy, but even that fantasy would be worthless under the stage play apparatus, stripping away the value of his free will achievements. But that about sums up my thoughts on this haunting piece of cinematic beauty. I'm also hosting my own film festival that I'll be streaming live on my channel in October, so if anybody out there would like to submit their creative short works to my film festival, you can find the submission link down below. Thank everyone so much for watching. If you really enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and share it amongst your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.